The story begins inside a courtroom where Ellen Plainview is confidently defending a young man accused of stealing a motorcycle. She carefully dismantles the prosecution's case, pointing out how the evidence doesn't logically add up. Using details like the position of the sun and visibility from a witness's shop, she proves that the eyewitness couldn't have clearly identified the suspect. Her argument is sharp and convincing, leading the judge to dismiss the case entirely. This moment establishes Ellen as intelligent, determined, and highly capable when it comes to the law. However, her personal life tells a very different story. After the trial, Ellen returns home to her teenage daughter Julie Plainview. Their relationship feels strained and distant. Julie is clearly upset that her mother missed an important school event, and although Ellen tries to make up for it with food and conversation, Julie brushes her off. It becomes obvious that Ellen's demanding career has created emotional distance between them. Julie prefers spending time with her friend Sylvie Garrett, who seems to have a strong influence on her. That same night, Julie goes out again with Sylvie despite her mother's concerns. Ellen suspects typical teenage behavior but doesn't realize that something far more serious is about to unfold. The next morning, shocking news breaks: a popular high school teacher has been found murdered at the beach. The victim is identified as Jean Dutton, Julie's English teacher and tennis coach. The situation immediately creates tension, but Ellen has no idea how deeply this crime will affect her own life. Soon after, detectives arrive at their house. Detective Vicky Ogawa and her partner begin questioning Julie about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Julie claims she was at Sylvie's house, but her answers seem uncertain. Ellen tries to protect her daughter, but the conversation quickly takes a dark turn when the detectives reveal that Julie knew the victim personally. Within moments, everything changes. Julie is arrested for first-degree murder. Ellen is completely shocked and refuses to believe it. To her, Julie is incapable of harming anyone. But the police insist they have strong evidence. At the station, Julie breaks down repeatedly, telling her mother, "I didn't do it." Ellen believes her, but the situation becomes more complicated as more details emerge. The police claim they found Julie's fingerprints in Jean Dutton's car, and there is also an eyewitness placing her near the scene of the crime. During interrogation, the detectives push Julie hard. They suggest that the murder was a crime of passion and accuse her of having an inappropriate obsession with her teacher. Julie denies everything, insisting that she barely interacted with him outside of school. Despite her claims, the evidence seems to be stacking up against her. Ellen steps in as both her mother and her lawyer, determined to fight for her daughter's innocence. Things get worse when Ellen learns that Julie had secretly purchased a plane ticket to Paris. This makes the authorities believe she was planning to flee, leading to a high bail amount that Ellen cannot immediately afford. Julie is forced to spend time in custody, which deeply affects her emotionally. She feels abandoned and begins to question whether even her own mother truly believes in her innocence. Meanwhile, the police search their home and find additional suspicious details. They discover Julie's personal journal, which contains disturbing entries that could be interpreted as evidence of obsession or emotional instability. A knife from their kitchen set is also missing, raising further suspicion. Each new discovery adds pressure on Ellen, who is struggling to keep the case under control. Ellen begins her own investigation, trying to uncover the truth. She speaks to Jean Dutton's wife, who strongly believes Julie was obsessed with her husband. According to her, Julie left notes, flowers, and even visited their house unexpectedly. These accusations paint Julie in a very negative light, suggesting a possible motive for the murder. However, Ellen isn't fully convinced and suspects that the wife's jealousy and paranoia may have influenced her statements. Next, Ellen questions Sylvie, hoping to confirm Julie's alibi. Sylvie claims they spent the night together, but eventually admits they went out and met two foreign boys at the beach. This contradicts Julie's earlier statement and creates further doubt. The timeline becomes unclear, and Ellen starts to worry that her daughter may be hiding something important. When confronted, Julie insists she is telling the truth, but admits to small details she initially hid, like visiting Jean Dutton's house once to retrieve her tennis racket. She also reveals that she lost her phone, which raises suspicion since threatening messages were allegedly sent from it to the victim. Julie claims someone else must have used her phone, but there is no proof. As the pressure builds, the emotional tension between mother and daughter reaches its peak. Ellen demands complete honesty, explaining that any hidden detail could destroy their case in court. Julie, feeling misunderstood and judged, lashes out. She accuses her mother of never truly being there for her and only caring about appearances and success. Their argument reveals deep emotional wounds that go beyond the current situation. Despite everything, Ellen refuses to give up. She prepares for trial, knowing that the case is becoming increasingly difficult. Julie even reaches a breaking point and briefly attempts to run away, unable to handle the fear and pressure. However, she returns, realizing that her mother is the only person she can rely on. As the situation remains unresolved, the evidence against Julie is strong, the truth is unclear, and Ellen is facing one of the toughest battles of her life, not just as a lawyer but as a mother trying to save her daughter from a life-changing accusation. As the trial begins, the situation becomes more intense for Julie Plainview and her mother, Ellen Plainview. Julie is emotionally exhausted, and the pressure of being accused of murder is clearly taking a toll on her. Ellen, now fully committed as both a lawyer and a mother, prepares to fight the case in court with everything she has. She even receives help from Ben, someone from her past who believes in Julie's innocence and supports Ellen during the trial. In court, the prosecutor presents a strong and emotional opening statement, portraying Julie as a troubled young girl who lacked proper guidance and became dangerous. The argument is designed to influence the jury emotionally, suggesting that convicting Julie would actually be an act of mercy. In response, Ellen calmly addresses the jury, urging them not to jump to conclusions. She explains that the investigation was rushed and biased from the start, and that the police built their case around assumptions rather than solid proof. She asks the jury to think carefully because Julie's entire future depends on their decision. The prosecution calls Detective Vicky Ogawa to the stand. The detective confidently explains that all the evidence points to Julie fingerprints in the victim's car and eyewitness identification and suspicious texts and journal entries. It initially sounds like a solid case. However, Ellen skillfully cross-examines her and begins to break it apart. She forces the detective to admit that it is impossible to prove who actually sent the text messages and that the fingerprints could have been left in the car on a different day. She also exposes that the journal evidence is inconclusive and cannot definitively be linked to Julie. Slowly, the certainty of the prosecution begins to weaken. Ellen continues by questioning whether the police even considered other suspects. It becomes clear that they focused on Julie almost immediately and failed to properly investigate alternative possibilities. This raises serious doubts about the integrity of the investigation and suggests that the case may have been built on a flawed foundation. Next, the victim's wife takes the stand and repeats her claim that Julie was obsessed with her husband DIDN. She describes suspicious behavior like notes, visits, and late-night calls. However, Ellen challenges her testimony by bringing up problems in her marriage, including past separations and possible infidelity. She suggests that the wife may have been jealous and misinterpreted the situation. Ellen even reveals that Jean had a history of inappropriate behavior with students, raising the possibility that he, not Julie, may have been the one crossing boundaries. This shifts the narrative and creates more uncertainty. The prosecution then presents an eyewitness, Otis Pell, who claims he saw Julie at the scene of the crime. At first, his testimony seems damaging, but Ellen carefully dismantles it. She demonstrates that the identification conditions were poor darkness, distance, and limited lighting, and proves that the witness could not even read a nearby sign correctly. This exposes his testimony as unreliable and further weakens the prosecution's case. Julie's friend Sylvie Garrett is then called to testify. She initially confirms Julie's alibi, saying they were together the entire night. But under pressure from the prosecutor, Sylvie admits that she briefly left Julie alone, creating a small window of time in which the crime could have occurred. Although she insists Julie is innocent, this inconsistency damages their defense. As the trial continues, Julie finally reveals the truth about her relationship with DIDN. She admits that they had been secretly meeting and that he kissed her, but she insists she ended things because she knew it was wrong. This revelation shocks Ellen but also provides a clearer picture of the situation. It suggests that Jean may have been involved with multiple students, opening the possibility that someone else had a motive to harm him. A surprising moment occurs when a classmate named Steve takes the stand. He initially supports Julie's character, describing her as kind and incapable of violence. However, under emotional pressure, he suddenly confesses to the murder, claiming he killed Jean to protect Julie. The courtroom is thrown into chaos. For a moment, it seems like the case is over and Julie will be freed. But Ellen quickly realizes that Steve has an alibi. He was out of town at the time of the murder. She understands that he is lying to save Julie. This creates a difficult moral situation. Ellen could stay silent and let Steve take the blame, which would guarantee Julie's freedom. But Julie refuses to allow an innocent person to suffer for something he didn't do. Following her conscience, she insists that the truth must come out even if it puts her back in danger. Ellen respects her daughter's integrity and informs the authorities about Steve's false confession. In her closing argument, Ellen delivers a powerful and emotional speech. She openly acknowledges her bias as a mother but explains that this also gives her insight into Julie's true character. She highlights Julie's honesty and courage, especially her willingness to risk everything to tell the truth. Ellen argues that the real issue is not just evidence but justice and integrity. She urges the jury to listen to their hearts and recognize that Julie is not a murderer. As the jury deliberates, tension builds. Julie and Ellen share a quiet emotional moment, uncertain of what the future holds. But before a verdict is reached, a crucial breakthrough occurs. Julie reviews the case details and notices something unusual: a homemade CD found in Jean's car containing music he didn't like. This suggests it belonged to someone else, possibly the real killer. Julie follows this lead and contacts Sylvie, asking to meet. At the beach, the truth finally comes out. Sylvie reveals that she was deeply jealous of Julie. She had also been involved with Jean and believed he loved her, but he ultimately rejected her in favor of Julie. Overcome with anger and heartbreak, Sylvie used Julie's phone to arrange a meeting with Jean, then confronted and killed him. She deliberately framed Julie out of jealousy and resentment. When Julie confronts her, Sylvie becomes unstable and violent, even attempting to harm Julie to keep her quiet. Fortunately, the situation is resolved and the truth is finally revealed to the authorities. With the real killer exposed, the court dismisses all charges against Julie. She is officially declared innocent. The nightmare is finally over. In the end, Ellen and Julie's relationship is stronger than ever. They have gone through an intense emotional journey but come out with a deeper understanding of each other. Julie decides to pursue law in the future, inspired by her mother's strength. The story closes on a hopeful note, with both of them looking forward to a new beginning, free from the shadow of the past. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.